And welcome to another week of playoff football here at Midday News. I am Collin Bestor, joined by all-around great guy Heath Rominger, as we'll get you ready for week 2 of the high school football playoff rounds. We have 3 games in our area. I'm Collin Bestor, coming to you from the Milton studios of Midday News, and Heath Rominger has the Navy version of the A-10 Warthog behind him.
What do you think about that, Collin?
The
Navy said, you know what, we want the Warthog for attack on ships and the small ships out there, and especially here in the coastal region. What a great way to showcase that off the coast of Venezuela.
See, as someone who grew up in a Navy family, I always had an affinity for the A-10 Warthog. My dad flew P-3 Orions in the Navy, so it was kind of like the crappy version of Top Gun. If you think about it, he was a pursuit pilot. My mom was a nurse, so I always had an affinity for that aircraft, and I loved seeing it at air shows every single time I went. It's a damn shame they're retiring that aircraft, but I mean, what can you do?
Well, the old tube slugs had to get something new, so we got to put some turbo engines on the side of it instead of the props.
Yeah, but we have 3 games to talk about, Heath. Very interesting playoff round. We went from 8 teams last week. Now we're down to basically 3. You had Niceville and Niceville and Crestview and their seasons in the first round. Rocky Bayou came home with a SSAA 2A state championship. And shout out to the coach at Rocky Bayou. He announced he's stepping down this week. He will be going into more school duties. But we have 3 games on the board today. 1 home game in our area. The Choctaw Indians are hosting the Columbia Tigers. They are a 3-point underdog at home, according to Florida High School Football. We travel west. I will be at this game. South Walton travels to Pensacola Catholic. Catholic is a 16-point favorite tonight, and the Baker Gators are a 17-point underdog to the Chiefland Indians. They will be going over to the Big Bend area of the state of Florida for tonight, and that game kicks off in a couple hours. But Heath, I think the big story for all of us here in the Niceville area and the Bayou area is we have to turn our attention to the 5A bracket, where Niceville lost by 1 point last week in overtime to Ponte Vedra on a blocked point after try that would have sent to a second overtime. We talked about it on Monday, but I want, as a former Niceville Eagle yourself, it was a strong showing by the Eagles. It was an okay season, 6-4, but they gave them hell in the first round of the playoffs, and they came up 1 play short.
Well, Collin, it's that's one of those things. I mean, unfortunately, somebody has to lose in this game, but to see the Eagles turn the second half of their season around and to make it to the playoffs was, just goes hand in hand to show you how well Coach Morgan had made some adjustments, got these guys on the right track, got them into the playoffs. And, there's some tough teams out there. And, the Jacksonville area has always had some, high caliber programs. Niceville is one of the ones here in the Panhandle. And, unfortunately, Niceville reaped what they sowed from last year. Ponte Vedra did come into Niceville and lost by 1 point in overtime while they were trying to go for 2. This year, Niceville travels there to Jacksonville, to the Ponte Vedra area, takes it down to overtime. Great ball game. They were down at 1 point. They came back, lost in overtime to a blocked kick. Kudos to the Ponte Vedra team to step it up. But, congratulations to the Eagles for a nice finish to the season. There's nothing to hang your head down low about. These guys really proved that they were a contender for the playoffs.
Yeah, and I think, to me, when you look at Niceville's season as a whole, it did start a little slow. You did open the season with a couple losses, which I think hurt them going to the end of the season when it came down to the seeding in the 5A Region 1 bracket. But you know what, they lost to Mosley in overtime, and that was a heartbreaker. Losing to Crestview in the way they did was a heartbreaker. But to turn their season around on a pretty much a 2-game winning streak, beating Milton, which they had to do to ensure their playoff chances, beating Navarre the way they did. Certainly, I think the sky is the limit for this Niceville team next year, especially with returning Deegan McCoy, who gets 1 year older. We already know how well Jacoby Gilliard has been this year, is probably one of the standout players in the area so far. He's only going to get a year better. He's going to get some he's going to gain some weight, gain some muscle, and he'll probably be one of the best running backs in the area come 2026. But this team was young. There was not a lot of senior leadership on this team. There will be some more senior leadership next year, but one more year with Coach Morgan. He did come in late. He came in during spring ball, if I'm not mistaken. So more time to get his program, get his offense in order, get the defense in order. I think Niceville is primed for a better 2026 moving forward. But the problem is they're in a District 1-5A who looks like Milton is going to reload next year. They lose Aiden Spratt on the defensive side, and they lose Katie Hall on the offensive side, who led them pretty much the entire time. But Milton looks to reload in Mosley, who's still continuing on in the Region 1 bracket. I believe they get JP Holzenbeek back next year. So, I mean, I think it's going to be a three-way dogfight for District 1-5A, and it's going to be very exciting to see.
Oh, absolutely. I think the competition next season is going to be even great now, because I think, unfortunately, it was Navarre or Gulf Breeze was in their district.
Yeah, Gulf Breeze.
Gulf Breeze. They've got a lot of improvement to do, but I'll tell you what, the Niceville-Mosley game was probably one of the toughest fought games, and probably the second hardest loss that Niceville took on, next to their recent loss to Ponte Vedra for the season, because they just fought to the end, and to lose it in just a point. But Milton also proved to be really a strong team, and kind of dominated their field. They had a couple of setbacks. They lost to Niceville, which hurt them ultimately, but they still made the playoffs. And then, of course, Mosley proved to be just like Niceville, just like Choctaw, just like anything, they're beatable too. So it's like any given Friday night, these guys got to play a full 4 quarters and improve their stance in the programs.
Mm-hmm. And while we're here, let's get through this district, Region 1, the Region 5A, Region 1 bracket. You see Mosley going to Mainland tonight. Mosley is an 18-point favorite, according to FloridaHighSchoolFootball.com. And Ponte Vedra is a 15-point favorite over Beachside. I don't see those games being that sort of one-sided, especially when you get into the second round of playoffs. You get a little bit more of a tougher competition. The contenders have pushed through the first round. These are the real teams who deserve to be in a playoff spot. So, I mean, are you taking Mosley to represent the area to move forward over Mainland, or are you taking Mainland and sort of, at home?
Well, I'll tell you, this. So here's the one thing here you got to look at. Mosley's traveling to Mainland, if I remember correctly. Mm-hmm. So they're going to have the home field advantage. Now, one of the things that, the Florida High School Association, they're not allowing the bands to travel. I don't know if that's a new rule or whatnot, but I'm going to tell you, this is one of the things that makes it a complete team. If you got your team, you got your band, and you got your cheerleaders, and you got your fans. That's all part of the experience. Ship them all over to there, let them support proudly, and rally these kids. Because I tell you what, being a former Eagle on the field, listen to our little fight song chime up there randomly is almost like the FSU war chant, the Gators and stuff. It just gets you invigorated. Just like, it reminds you who's behind you. So, so getting back to this game here, Mosley traveling over the Mainland. On paper, they're both putting up over 380 yards per game. I think this is going to be a Niceville-Mosley repeat in a way that it's going to come down to potentially in overtime in a less than 3-point game. So I expect big numbers and big plays out of this game.
Yeah, I think what Mosley has shown all year is that JP Holzenbeek, the offense sort of goes through him. And I think he's one of the most talented quarterbacks in the Northwest Florida area. And I think he is a really hard person to stop. And what we saw last week with this Mosley team is they actually had to come from behind and beat Lincoln. They did that pretty much I think with 5 minutes to go. And it came down to a trick play drawn up by Coach Tommy Joe Whitten. I don't think it's going to be a trick play sort of thing that puts Mosley ahead. I think Mosley wins outright tonight. But I'm going to take Ponte Vedra. I think, showing the tenacity they should against Niceville. I think they have. I mean, there's a reason why the number 1 seed, in my opinion. They played everyone who were on their schedule, and they were one of the best teams in the state of Florida. So give me a Ponte Vedra Mosley matchup in that last game to decide who the region champion is, who will then eventually go on to the state championship at Pitbull Stadium in Miami-Dade County. So that's going to be fun for all those players. But
I'll concur with you, Ponte Vedra and Mosley to make it to the next game.
Yeah. Let's move on to the rural bracket. Last week we saw Baker quite handily defeat Liberty County 35-0. They moved on. There are 8 teams left. They are moving on to Chiefland, which is in the Big Bend area of Florida. Florida High School Football has them as a 17-point underdog to Chiefland. Chiefland, for people who don't really know who they are, this is a pretty good team. They entered 10-2 so far on the year, only lost to Baker County, who also moved on into the second round. Yeah, actually, no. Baker County did not move on into the second round. Actually, they weren't even in the playoffs to begin with, which is actually surprising considering they were a good team. That was their only loss this season to Baker County. They've defeated a lot of other teams in blowout fashion. They've defeated Sneads 44-6 this year. Passing isn't really the strong suit for this team. They are really a heavy run option attack. They had 203 yards last week against Sneads for 3 touchdowns. Quarterback also had 121 yards through the air. For Baker, the big criticism for this year is they faced very not tough competition whatsoever. And they've had 7 home games, only going on the road 3 times this year. This is the longest road trip for the Baker Gators this year. And if there's any spread by Florida High School Football that is close to being accurate in my mind, it's this game. I think for all our Baker Gator fans, I'm so sorry, but I think Chiefland is just too much for this Baker Gator team, and I think they went outright.
Yeah, I will tell you this is going to be probably Baker's toughest game that they're going to run up against. And I didn't see Chiefland's stats here. I was going to look at see what they provided, and I was having troubles finding those. That rural conference is a tough one to find here. You got to bury it into the data. But I'm going to go with Baker on this one here. They're going to travel on the road and to a really tough Chiefland team, but I think they'll pull it off.
Yeah, other games in the rural division, we have Blountstown over Madison County. Blountstown is favored by 45. I think you can book it right now that Blountstown is probably going to be in the state championship game in the rural division. There's just so much talent on that team, especially in the running back room where you have 3 D1 guys in that running back room. Taylor County is favored by 20 points over Pahokee. I don't see it. I think Pahokee, they played last Thursday, so they have a couple more days to prepare, a little bit more rest. So I think that game's a little closer. And Florida High School Football gives Williston a 2-point, a favor by 2 point over the 2nd seed Hawthorne. That would be a very nice upset because if Baker actually wins tonight and Williston wins, Baker actually gets a home game before they go to the state championship. I know all the Baker fans, if that were to happen tonight, they'd be very excited. You get a little bit of home field advantage that before we all presume that they face Blountstown in the state championship game. But
Collin, have you ever been to Williston, Florida?
I've never heard of Williston, Florida before.
Let me tell you, it's on the outskirts of Gainesville as you head down towards not Cedar Key, down to Cedar Key and Crystal River area. It's very rural, and I would almost say that Williston is 10 times more rural than Baker. I mean, and everybody knows how big Baker is, but I'll tell you what, they got some cornbread-fed youngsters there, much like Baker does. So this one's going to be a really good matchup if they make it to play each other.
And real quick, we'll look at the 3A bracket real quick because this is interesting to me. There are some local teams in this as well. This was, I think, the biggest surprise from last week, the biggest upset as Godby defeated Bay 56-43 last week. Godby moves on to face Bishop Kenny. And in Northwest Florida, you have the West Florida Tech Jaguars from Pensacola. They're moving on to face Rains in the second round of the bracket. According to FloridaHighSchoolFootball.com, who gives the lines, Godby is a 56-point underdog to Bishop Kenny. We saw Godby play Niceville earlier this year, and I thought, even though Niceville won 17-0 over Godby, I thought Godby showed promise. I think they're a better team than that score provided, and I think beating Bay certainly raises your expectations moving forward because Bay, I think, was probably one of the best teams in Northwest Florida at the end of the season. So it wouldn't surprise me if Godby pulls another upset this week against Bishop Kenny, moves on to the Region 1 championship game. And then West Florida, I think the I think Reigns is a little too much. Are they going to win by 48? Probably not. But I'm going to take Reigns versus Godby in the Region One Region One final. What do you think?
Oh, absolutely. Reigns has always been a tough program. I'll take you back to back in time to 1988 when the Eagles traveled over and played in the Gator Bowl. They played Jacksonville Reigns and barely pulled out of the Gator Bowl with I think it was a 17-13 win to push the Eagles into the semifinals. Very tough team. They've always been well coached. They've got a talent of players. They're part of the Jacksonville area, so you can imagine that there's a ton of talent flowing through there. So I picked them as a favorite to win outright.
Yeah. We'll be right back. We'll take a quick commercial break, and then we'll be back to talk about probably the more marquee matchups: Columbia versus Choctaw and Pensacola Catholic versus South Walton. So stay with us. We'll be right back after this short word from Final Approach Irrigation.
You know your lawn's looking a little bit janky. All those busted up sprinkler heads, dead patches. It's okay though. Final Approach Irrigation's got you. Their experienced and knowledgeable staff will quickly diagnose the problem and get right to work fixing it. Final Approach Irrigation is the best in the game, and they'll keep your lawn looking undefeated this fall. The refs won't be throwing any flags on them. They'll do you right every single time. Absolutely fair and transparent pricing, along with honest work ethic and integrity. Check them out over at finalapproachirrigation.com to get started today. Thanks again to our friends at Final Approach Irrigation for sponsoring this show and making sure you know everything there is to know about high school football here on the Emerald Coast this season.
And we are back. Thank you to Final Approach Irrigation for being for bringing this show to you every week during the high school football season. We move on to 2A. This is a game that I will be at tonight. So South Walton is making that long trip to Pensacola to face the Pensacola Catholic Crusaders. This is a rematch of a game we saw earlier this year where South Walton fell by 13 to Pensacola Catholic in the same location. For the people who are South Walton fans and you can't make the game, you can listen to the game on Fox Sports Radio Pensacola, although it will be a very Catholic-heavy broadcast as they broadcast all the Catholic games. Pensacola Catholic is a 16-point underdog South Walton is a 16-point underdog to Pensacola Catholic. Who only lost this year was to a Pace team who absolutely ran through them in week 4 of the season. But ever since then, Catholic's been on a roll, and Sowall has had some ups and downs, but they've eventually finished the season, I believe, 8-2. Do you see this game going the same way as it did earlier in the season, or do you think Sowall round 2 can get it done at Pensacola Catholic?
Well, I tell you, I was at Sowall last weekend watching them play Freeport, and of course, Freeport is probably not one of the teams that you would say was a kind of a powerhouse for their. But having played Catholic and lost to them already, I know why they lost to Catholic is because Catholic control the ground game. They're putting up over 225 yards per game on the ground. Again, you control the ground game, you control the clock. And I think South Walton didn't really have much of a running game. They spent a lot of time passing, which they did very well. They do outperform Catholic in the air campaign. But, again, you own the ground, you own the clock, and I think this is what's going to put Catholic on top to have a repeat and another win against Sowall.
Yeah, I'm taking Sowall to win outright. I think it's very hard to beat a good team twice, and especially with Sowall having a lot more to prove. There's been some videos out by the Sowall football team that they wanted a rematch with Pensacola Catholic. They thought they actually could have done it to beat them in the regular season. I still think they can. I think that Sowall defense is really, really good and can control this game. If J.D. Brown shows up, if Grant, what's his name? I'm going to get flamed on social media for not remembering players, so I'll just move on. I think South Walton actually has a very good chance. And if we look at the other side of this bracket, we have a number 1 Bowls team playing Florida State High School tonight. Florida State High School is favored by 69 points over Florida State High. So I'm taking Bowls to roll. I'm not going to say they're going to win by 69 points, but give me South Walton versus Bowles in the Region 1 championship.
I'm going Catholic and Bowles.
It's going to be a fun game. It's going to be the only game we're covering tonight here. So there will be video highlights coming out later tonight, along with photos and updated brackets on our social media as the games go final. And then the one game that I think we'll get in a lot of trouble for, I will get in a lot of trouble for saying things, is we go to the 4A bracket. We have St. Augustine, Ed White, Columbia, and Choctaw as your final 4 teams. St. Augustine versus Ed White. I think we're going to say St. Augustine. I think we're both picking them to win this game. But tonight, Columbia making the long trip to Choctaw. Columbia is a 3-point favorite over Choctaw. And before I get in trouble, Heath, I'm going to let you go first.
You're going to let me go? I tell you, this is
going
to be one of those games that I wish I was there to watch tonight. Unfortunately, I cannot clone myself to be in 2 places at once. However, I do see this as a pretty good matchup. However, I'm going to side on Choctaw with this just because they have a run game where Columbia doesn't. However, Columbia generally has a great defense. So this is going to be one of these matchups here is if Choctaw can control the ground game, move the ball, convert on 3rd down, they can pull this off and probably make it a 2-touchdown game.
All right, so now we're going to get in trouble. I'm taking Columbia to win. If for people who don't know who the Columbia Tigers are, let's educate a little bit. They only had 2 losses on the season. Their first one was to a St. Augustine team, who's currently the number 1 seed in 4A, and their second loss was at the end of the season to a Bowles team, who's currently the number 1 seed in 2A. They did have some trouble last week against Rickards. At one point, it was 7-0 Rickards or 7-0 Columbia, and you think to yourself, why? How is Columbia not blowing this team out? But my issues with Choctaw, and I've seen them a couple times this year, is they start slow, whereas Columbia usually starts a little quicker. And if Choctaw doesn't get the ball moving offensively, I think they're going to be in a lot of trouble. I think this is Choctaw's toughest game since they played Enterprise. And Enterprise really punched them in the mouth. It was a slugfest back and forth, and whoever had the ball last won that game. And it turned out to be Enterprise on a somewhat of a fumble in the end zone.
What a fluke that was.
Yes, but I mean, at points, Enterprise could not be stopped on offense, especially when they did their scoring drives and they were able to pull ahead. But the key for Choctaw is there's a couple guys coming back from injury. Mario Alloway, who was on the sideline last week in street clothes, it looks like he will be coming back tonight. So the defense looks to be running on, I guess, all cylinders tonight. That would be in Choctaw's favor, but offensively they do start slow. And if Columbia does stop that running game, which I think they might, I think Columbia pulls ahead. I'm going to say Columbia wins 27-24, give you that 3-point spread, and all the people in Long Beach can be angry at me, but I simply don't care.
We'll run with it. We'll see what happens.
If you have a problem, you can email me at collin@midbaynews.com and tell me I'm wrong. But I'm usually never wrong because I have like 90% success rate.
That's when you bet against Niceville.
Yeah, I'm only wrong when I bet against Niceville, not against any other teams. But it's supposed to be an exciting week of football. And so far through the first 2 rounds, Heath, before we go, was there any surprises to you in the first round of the playoffs games? I know Niceville losing by 1 point in overtime surprised a lot of people. It surprised a lot of people knowing how competitive that game was for Niceville to go on the road. I mean, Pine Forest and 4A, I don't think was going to make it very far. Milton, I don't think was going to make it very far. But is there any local team that sort of surprised you so far in this round of the playoffs to actually be at this point and going to round 2?
Actually, no. Everybody's played they've had a really good season, and obviously they're deserving to be where they are at. And, it's sad that we do have to have a loss. Somebody has to walk away a winner or a loser. And, yes, I feel for the Niceville Eagles. I thought they were going to go over there and pull it off. And they had, just like Ponte Vedra, they both made some key errors. They both had some turnovers that affected them. And in the end, it came down to special teams. And, so that was definitely one that I think was that hit the closest to home. But outside of that, a lot of good football was played, and everybody was deserving to advance.
All right. And before we go, let's get to some comments. We have Wesley Sunday. He's always a frequent flyer on our football coverage. He's saying, let's go Sowall. And then to our contributor, Hunter Brock, who is not here today as he is nervously approaching his baby coming. It's a baby boy. But he said, love the background, Heath.
Yes, yes.
Now, I will say, before we came on air, Heath had a different background that I don't think we can show because Christopher, he is on assignment today, but I'm pretty sure he will be watching or he will find out somehow that he will not show it. But Heath this weekend is not going to be at a football game. He's going hunting, which is going to be an exciting time. And he also had one thing. He was, like, I guess, a shot at me. I am never wrong when picking Niceville over except Milton.
You got to love this banter here. I think one is these kids go out and play hard week in and week out, and whether you're a Milton fan, an Eagle, a Choctaw fan, and stuff, you've got to be proud of these kids. So what they do on Friday nights, the opportunities that they bring the communities together, the opportunities they provide for themselves to go on to the next level. There's just so much benefit to the Friday nights lights atmosphere that people don't understand. If you don't embrace this, you don't really understand and love your community the way we do.
Yeah, and I think as a Milton alma mater, as a Milton alumni, seeing this Milton team go through years of just being irrelevant in the football world for the past 3 years or so, and then for them to show up as at one point 5-0 on the season before they started playing Mosley, finishing the year 7-4 after going 0-10 last year. I think just goes to show that, Ronnie Douglas was probably the right man for the job, bringing him in, getting those players ready. It's exciting to see where Milton will go next year. And the thing is, next year, Niceville has to go to Milton. And y'all can come on over. I'll get you some shish kebabs. We can all have a nice night at the Panther Den.
And then go to the Whataburger afterwards?
We can go to the Whataburger afterwards. I will pay. But for everyone, hope you enjoy the second round playoff action of high school football. Also, while we're at it, shout out Coach Megan Darhauer and the Niceville Lady Eagles. They got a big win on Tuesday over Booker T. Washington. Probably one of the better teams in the area. Beat them by 1 point, 49-48. Those highlights are on midbaynews.com, and we promise to follow this Lady Eagle basketball team throughout the entire rest of the season. I think they have a very strong schedule. The next time you'll see them probably on Midbay News is going to be December 1st as they travel to the Panther Den to face the Milton Panthers, another up-and-coming team in Witt girls basketball. But on Monday, Heath, you're going to be excited about this. We are going to be announcing who won the Emerald Coast Elite Players of the Year. Voting ended earlier today at midnight, so there's no more chance. If you vote now, I know the form is still open, but if you vote now,
doesn't count.
They're not counting it. And I will say there is one award that was not voted on. Is my discretion. It's going to be the best concession stand, and I believe Christopher has a hot dog trophy to give out. I will say you'll have to tune in Monday, but your 3 finalists for that award, in no particular order: Milton,
of course, Collin, of course,
Niceville, and Gulf Breeze.
Now, is this going to be a traveling trophy where you're going to go to the high school and say, "Look, you've been awarded the best hot dog at the football venue"? I think that's move from season to season.
I think that's disrespectful because, the thing is, who's to say? Because Gulf Breeze will be coming to Niceville next year, so I won't get to experience the 2026 iteration of the Gulf Breeze concession stand. I don't think I'm gonna go, but I will get to experience the Niceville concession stand because Christopher obviously will make me work, and he will take a night off because he has kids, he has children, so he's going to make me work. So I'll experience Niceville concession stand again. I'll experience the Milton concession stand again, Crestview. But the thing is, next year, instead of doing hot dogs, each of these stadiums have a signature meal, right? A signature sort of thing on their menu. I would say Niceville has you can say they have Chick-fil-A, but I think it's Brosini's. You know what I mean? It's a local staple here in Niceville. Brosini's pizza is sort of undefeated when it comes to pizza around here. I haven't had a slice better, to be honest with you. Milton is just shish kebab. Crestview is the boiled peanuts. Apparently, the boiled peanuts are to die for. Even Niceville fans say the boiled peanuts in Crestview are some of the best that you can get in the area. I think it's because they're fresh, because they're like right off the field. They just come right down. But Choctaw has these things called tribe fries that I'm afraid to get because it looks like a heart attack on a plate. It's like pulled pork, nacho cheese, jalapenos, French fries, and they call them tribe fries. They look really good. I see people ordering them. I'm just afraid to do it because, like, I don't want to like just die.
Embrace it. Just embrace it and do it.
Yeah, but like,
give your palate the opportunity to have to make the decision whether or not it's good for you or not.
But I will say that trophy will be announced Monday as Player of the Year, Offensive Player of the Year. I think the two finalists for that, Grant Gilmore and Jacoby Gilliard, I think those two have the highest votes. I think a South Walton player, I think, is in the top 3 of votes for Defensive Player of the Year. And I think Best Band, I think a lot of people will be happy about that. But remember, it's the people who watch the show and the people who read Midday News who decided to vote on it. So if you read between the lines, you can kind of guess who's won some awards or not. But we will announce that all on Monday. I don't know what time yet because I haven't talked to Christopher yet. He's sort of unavailable at the moment.
Yeah, can I give some hints out there, or am I bound to secrecy?
The person he's going to yell at is me. And I've been chewed out before.
All right, I won't even give hints to some of the
just know that people will be happy.
Yeah.
And Hunter
brought a lot
of
great qualified individuals that were presented and voted upon, and you're right. No, there will be no disappointment in there from the roster.
But real quick before we go, because you brought this up at the beginning of the show, and this was a topic of conversation last week. I was at Choctaw, and I saw that there was no band playing at Choctaw.
Mm-hmm.
And you were at Freeport versus South Walton, and there were bands playing at halftime.
Yes.
And I was told by a school official that the reason bands don't play is because the FHSAA does not allow that to happen. They want to give as a neutral field as possible to visiting teams because the FHSAA believes that there's no such thing as home field advantage in the playoffs, which you and I both know is absolute BS.
What is FHSAA doing? DEI approach to things now? I mean, come on. Everything home field advantage means everything. I'll take it here. Let's rewind to 1988. Semifinals and final games were played at Niceville. Tell me we didn't have home field advantage with 10,000 people in the stands. Our band jamming. Their band didn't make it up there. Each team were blown out at halftime, 42-0.
Yeah.
Tell me that's not part of the atmosphere right there. I tell you, I think if they would have had their band probably travel with them, they probably have done a little bit better. But it's part of the experience, the team, because that's what got them there too. So I think they need to revisit that policy.
Now it's weird because I hear different things. I heard one from a school official that said it was the FHSA's fault. There's people who are knowledgeable with bands across the area saying that, the marching band season is over. Some band members move on to other things like symphonic band and stuff like that. But the problem with this home field advantage rule that I find absolute BS by the FHSAA is that there is a reason why people are number one. If there's truly no home field advantage, then every playoff game should be played at a neutral field.
Exactly.
If you're in Northwest Florida, you should travel to Tallahassee, play at Doak Campbell, or play at another school that can fit it. But there's a reason why you play well, you're seated higher, and home field advantage matters. There's a reason why Choctaw was going for the number 1 seed against St. Augustine because they don't want to make that drive to St. Augustine. They want St. Augustine to come here because St. Augustine's a really good team, and they want the smoke at Choctaw. Now, Choctaw wasn't able to get it done, and there was disappointment when the brackets came out that St. Augustine was number 1 and Choctaw was 2. There was real disappointment because if Choctaw was able to make it, they have to go to St. Augustine, and that's been a lot of trouble for them. St. Augustine is 2-1 all time against Choctaw, and the reason is Choctaw has to go to St. Augustine. If Niceville, and this is my first time ever at Niceville's High this year, seeing a football game, and I got to tell you, that place, even when Choctaw was blowing out Niceville, that student section did not shut up. They were still going like it was still 0-0, like there was something to give. And even that band, when Milton was, because you were there, Heath, Milton was driving late in the game. And Milton got 3 offsides penalties because the band was playing. The AD Hall couldn't hear them. Now, I did learn that the FHSA, there's a rule that prohibits bands from playing when the opposing team is on. So Niceville, I guess, broke FHSA guidelines, but no one cares. But that's the thing. No one cares. It's part of the whole
experience.
It's part of the atmosphere. It's part of because that's how, like, if these players go into college, that's how it is in college football. Bands play when they're in the red zone. That's how things happen. That's how you get better as a player. So we've researched all that we can about this rule. We think it's stupid, but our qualms with the FHSA will be, I guess, in 2026 as well. We'll never get over it. I think that's the perfect place to end this show, because if we went any further about the FHSA, we'd probably get Christopher would call us because I used a cuss word, and then I get shootouts. But
then you might get fired or fined by the FCC or something. So
Now we don't get FCC violations, but there are the rules. There are words you can't say on any media, and we do follow those. But I do need a job, because I will say I married a woman who likes the finer things in life. I'll just leave it at that.
That's why she married you. The finer things in life.
Thank you. But for Heath Rominger, all around great guy. Enjoy your hunting experience. All the people who are going hunting, enjoy that. If you're going to a high school football game, you can listen to the Choctaw Columbia game on the Ticket Sports Network, 103.7 and 94.3 in Fort Walton Beach. Our friends Gareth Stearns will take care of you, bring you all the Choctaw football action. And if you're a Sowell fan, you can listen to the game at Fox Sports Radio in Pensacola. That game kicks off at 7:30. Columbia kicks off at 7. Enjoy the second round of high school football playoffs, and we'll see you Monday as we unveil the Emerald Coast Elite. Take care, everybody.